I need to tell you something that exactly 72 hours ago, only 14 people on this entire planet knew, and I am risking absolutely by saying it out loud to you right now before we begin. I need you to do something for me. Please comment your city name below and tell me honestly, have you noticed anything unusual in the night sky recently? Any flickering stars, any lights that shouldn't be there? NASA is quietly collecting data, and what they are finding is deeply disturbing. Do it now, because what I am about to share may fundamentally change the way you see humanity's fragile place in the universe. Let's strat. The most terrifying sound in the world isn't a scream. Sometimes it is absolute silence. And right now, regarding Interstellar Object 3I Atlas, the silence is deafening. I am not just talking about the sudden lack of press releases from NASA or the missing updates from the usual university observatories, although that blackout is suspicious enough on its own, given the magnitude of what we are witnessing. I am talking about the object itself. For weeks we have been tracking a chaotic, tumbling, flickering light in the dark. It was flashing bright and dim, spinning wildly as it fought against the solar wind. That flickering was our comfort. It meant the object was natural. It meant it was just a jagged, dumb rock tumbling out of control, obeying the blind laws of physics. Chaos, in this context, is safe. It implies nature, but as of this morning, December 14th, the flickering stopped. The light curve didn't just smooth out. It flatlined. 3I Atlas has stopped tumbling, and that is a massive problem because, according to everything we know about Newtonian physics, rocks don't just decide to stop spinning in the vacuum of space. Let's break down exactly why this specific data point is keeping astronomers awake at night. In space, there is no air resistance to slow things down. If you spin a top on a table on Earth, friction eventually stops it, but in the void, angular momentum is conserved. If a comet is tumbling, it stays tumbling for millions of years unless a significant outside force acts on it. Usually that force is outgassing jets of gas, pushing it around like thrusters. But outgassing is inherently messy. It usually makes the spin worse, acting like a wild, stuck throttle that makes the object wobble faster and faster until the centrifugal force rips it apart. It adds entropy to the system. It doesn't subtract it. It certainly doesn't act like a precise set of gyroscopic brakes. Yet the data from the last 24 hours shows exactly that the chaotic rotation period, which was shifting wildly between 8 and 12 hours just yesterday, has vanished. The brightness of the object is now perfectly terrifyingly constant. This implies one of two things, and neither is comforting. The first possibility is that the object has disintegrated into a cloud of dust so fine and uniform that it reflects light evenly in all directions, which we know isn't true because our radar is still tracking a solid, coherent core. The second possibility is that the object has stabilized itself. It has locked its orientation. Imagine a spacecraft that is spinning out of control after a collision. The pilot has to fire the thrusters in a specific calculated sequence, yaw left, pitch up, reverse thrust to kill the momentum and stabilize the ship. That is exactly what the light curve looks like today. It looks like a stabilization maneuver. The object has stopped fighting the spin and has oriented itself, likely pointing its long axis directly along its flight path. It is no longer drifting. Aimlessly, it is flying. And this brings us back to the silence from the major agencies. Usually when a comet does something scientifically fascinating, like stabilize or flare, the internet is flooded with image of the day posts, technical breakdowns, and excited tweets from planetary scientists. Today, crickets. The public data feeds from some of the major tracking networks have been delayed or show maintenance errors. The raw images are coming in slower than usual. It feels like the data is being triaged. It feels like the people looking at the screens are seeing something they don't know how to explain to the public without using words they are afraid to use. If you tell the world the rock stops spinning, you have to explain how, and right now there is no natural model that explains a sudden perfect stabilization just 4 days before closest approach. We have to talk about that timing because it is the most chilling part of this puzzle. We are exactly 4 days away from December 19th, the point where 3I Atlas gets closest to Earth. It is currently moving through the most critical phase of its journey. So if this were a probe, if this were a machine designed to scan a system, this is exactly the moment you would want to stabilize. You can't take high-resolution pictures, focus a transmission beam, or take precise atmospheric readings if you are tumbling end over end like a dryer drum. You need a steady platform. You need to lock your sensors on the target. The fact that this braking maneuver happened right now just as it enters the optimal window for observation is a coincidence that is becoming statistically impossible to ignore. There's also the matter of the X-ray spike. We discussed yesterday, high energy emissions usually come from violent events, crashes, explosions, extreme heat. But a stable, steady X-ray glow from a cold object that looks less like a crash and more like an engine signature or a communications beam. If the object has stopped tumbling, that beam is no longer sweeping wildly across the sky like a lighthouse. It is pointed somewhere specific. Is it pointed at the sun to recharge? Is it pointed at Earth to listen? We don't know, because the telemetry data that would tell us the orientation vector hasn't been updated in the public logs for 12 hours. We are watching a story unfold that feels less like astronomy and more like an encounter. Natural objects are messy. They crumble, they tumble, they fade. They don't change color to blue. They don't maintain perfect geometric formations against the solar wind. And they certainly don't stabilize themselves mere days before a flyby 3I Atlas is behaving with intent. It is behaving with purpose. And the silence from NASA suggests that they are seeing the same thing we are, a level of control that shouldn't exist in a dirty snowball. The flickering light was scary because it was violent, but this steady, unblinking light is terrifying because it is watching. The tumble is gone, the chaos is gone, 3I Atlas is steady, silent, and locked on. We have 4 days left until the close approach. The object is ready.